Hello, welcome back. Now, long story short, if you're looking for a modern Les Paul style guitar that has exceptional playability, quality, and sounds great, and you don't want to pay a Gibson Modern or Supreme price, just hear me out. So recently I've just been buying and selling guitars to kind of refresh my lineup to give me a little bit more motivation to keep on playing. One of the guitars I bought semi-recently is actually this Epiphone Les Paul Prophecy, and I was so impressed by it, I thought to myself, maybe I go out and treat myself to a Gibson. So when I started looking into the Gibsons, there's really only two Les Paul models that really stuck out to me, and that would be the Moderns and the Supremes. Why? Just because they have more modern features, locking tuners, ebony fretboards, they got the contoured heel cut in the back, and they have the Burstbucker Pro Plus pickups, which I believe are more modern sounding than other Gibson pickups, which, being an older guitarist who still wants to be hip and with it, it appealed to me. So a thing to note, the Modern and the Supremes are pretty much the same guitars, but the Supremes just have a little more higher appointments on it with kind of like the headstock logo, some of the inlays, stuff like that. So I went into the store and I did play a few of them, and they did play great. But when I looked at the price tag, I'll be honest, $3,000 to $4,000, right? I was basically, doing the meme of math calculating, like how can I arrange numbers around to actually be able to buy this, without, spending additional money outside of the guitars that I was selling. However, going through this whole process, I forgot I had an old friend right here, the ESP LTD EC1000T CTM. And I remembered that it always reminded me of a Les Paul Supreme Wine Red. So I was just perusing a guitar website and I noticed that they had gold-plated Fishman Fluence Modern pickups, which I was actually interested in getting a set of the Fishman Fluence Modern pickups, potentially for this guitar anyways. And after doing the calculations, it cost me $400 to get the set of pickups, get them installed, and get a setup on it all at the same time. So it was kind of a no-brainer of what won out. I literally saved thousands of dollars to get me a guitar that now looks closer to the Les Paul Supreme Wine Red, which is my favorite, and I get kind of a different sound profile to really, reinvent this guitar. It also got me thinking too, and I know I did a review on this guy before, praising it, and I kind of spun it in a way, is this a good Les Paul Standard alternative, which it is, but when you start looking at the specs, I really think all the EC1000T and the EC1000T CTM guitars really just compete with the Gibson Les Paul Moderns and the Supremes when you start looking at all the specs. This is basically the poor man Gibson Les Paul Modern or Supreme. I really feel these guitars are really overlooked because they are labeled LTD and not, ESP, right, or E2s. And obviously they're just mid, right? So they totally couldn't compete with Gibsons or any of the higher brand guitars, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Now these LTD EC1000T and EC1000T CTMs, they generally retail new for about $1,200 to $1,600. However, I have seen some used go for $800 to $900. So let's say you didn't like the stock pickups in them or wanted something that was custom to you. Realistically, you buy something used for $800 to $900, pay $400 for pickups and a setup, you're still well below what a Modern and a Supreme would cost. And now the T in the EC1000 just means it's traditional. It's basically going to be a full thickness guitar, though it is weight relieved, more akin to a traditional Les Paul Standard. And it's also going to be how the Modern and the Supremes are, minus the contoured cut on the back. So you're basically going to get that classic Les Paul feel that honestly feels pretty good either way you go. Now for the LTDs, if you got a EC1000T CTM, it just basically means custom, right? You might have a little bit better inlay, some multiply binding, front and back, and all that. So now those who are looking for more of a modern feeling guitar that's more contemporary, you would probably actually look at just like the EC1000 series or something like the Epiphone Les Paul Prophecy that's going to have, the thinner body, they're going to be lighter, they're going to have the body cut and all that. So that is why those types of guitars are omitted from this comparison, because they just aren't the same. One thing I do want to note though, because I did change out the pickups on mine, Normally, the EC1000T and CTM guitars are going to come with the Fishman Fluence Open Core Classic pickups. Those are still great pickups, and they're going to rival the Burstbucker Pro Pluses in the Modern and the Gibson Supreme. So you're able to get more of a similar sounding profile when you compare those two together than, say, the Moderns that I put in here. So I don't want to make the impression that you have to go out and actually get a new set of pickups in it, because I think it plays great right out of the box. So now when you start going spec for spec with the LTD and the Gibsons, they have a lot of similarities. They're going to have ebony fretboards, they're going to have locking tuners, they're going to have 22 frets, they're going to be made out of mahogany, they're going to have a maple cap, they're going to have the same scale length. However, one of the things the LTD has over the Moderns and the Supremes, they do have stainless steel extra jumbo frets. And they also have those Fishman Open Core Classic pickups, where in theory, you're able to get more voicings than the Burstbucker Pros, but again, with the amps, pedal settings, all that, you know, you can do a lot of things. However now, where the Gibsons take lead over the LTDs, normally the wood is better that it's made out of, it's going to have a better top, things like that, where with the price of the Gibsons, you would expect. But does that really justify the price over the LTD? Because again, end of the day, how much is that wood actually affecting the sound and playability of the guitar? One of the things also note though is, for example, these LTDs, they're probably going to come with, you know, a gloss finish with a satin neck back here, which I personally like the satin. But on the other hand, the Gibsons are going to usually come with a nitro finish, which basically they say it's more breathable, it just ages better, you get a nice patina with it, and again, I like the feel of that too. So for me, you know, I could go either way, so it's really just going to come down to personal preference. And then another thing to note is going to be the fretboard radius here, where this is basically a 13.7 inch all the way through fretboard radius, where the Moderns and the Supremes are a 12 to 16 inch fretboard radius. So again, that's going to come down to personal preference, what you like playing. Do you like a consistent all the way through, or something that's kind of, you know, rounder at the bottom and gets flatter near the top of the fretboard? And now for the next couple points, I'm actually going to pull out the prophecy over here, because it will help demonstrate what I'm talking about. First, it's just going to be the neck construction, right, or just how things are made, where basically the Les Pauls are going to have a glued on neck here, where they have the, you know, single cut carved body, and they glue the neck right here on, where the LTD actually has a set through neck, where basically the neck goes kind of into the body and glues into it. And then you also see the contoured heels, where since this has the set through neck, you can kind of put it right through the middle, bring it right up, make it look like it belongs in the guitar. No noticeable difference really to it. Where you come over to the Les Paul, you can definitely see the difference. You can see how it's cut out. So I can see where some of the Gibson purists wouldn't want to jump on like a Modern or a Supreme, because you're kind of losing some of that look on the back. So as you can see, there's a lot of similarities between them, and there are some differences, but they're both going to be great guitars at the end of the day. It really comes down to a value proposition in my mind. Another thing though that may be argued though to, well, why the Gibsons are better, well, they're made in America. And, you know, that is great, but if you actually do some research on Gibson, they had a bad rap for a while. They actually declared bankruptcy in 2018, and around that time when they got bought out by an investment group, people say the quality went back up, right? But prior to 2018, it's kind of all over the place. And I get all guitar companies are going to have quality control issues here or there, but that is something to note and investigate, because it is actually a fun read and a fun time to go down the history of Gibson. Now, on the other hand though, these LTDs, if you find the ones made in Korea, Korea is known to make good guitars. And they have been for a while. So you're not going to be getting a dud. Make no mistakes though. Gibson, Modern, and Supremes are fantastic guitars. But again, if you are a new player or someone who doesn't care about the Gibson heritage or the headstock and you're just looking for a great guitar, I don't think you sleep on one of these EC1000Ts or CTMs. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. They're, you know, a classic look and feel, but still have all the modern appointments. You really can't go wrong with that. So thanks for watching. Drop me a comment on what you think. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a like. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Also check the links down in the description for different social platforms I'm on. I'm on all streaming platforms. I'm trying to make music and get it out there. Work in progress, but I do have some songs, so check those out. That'd mean the world to me. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.